In this training, I'm going to explain how the workflow works. The workflow is a very powerful piece of software or part of a software inside our program that can do many things automatically. Here you can see the button that goes to the workflow manager, kind of the main part of the workflow. But the workflow consists of three parts. One part is the workflow manager that we're going to see just now. This one is the workflow manager, where you can create and modify your workflows. Second is the action list for all contexts, or one in particular if you do a filter. And this one, essentially, what it does looks very similar, as you can see, like the workflow manager, but this one lists the steps that have been triggered and when it was scheduled and when it was triggered and if it was triggered correctly, etc. So you can, I'm going to explain all this in a second, and so you know. And then the third part, so we have two, right? The manager, the action list, and then in the contact list, we have the part where we assign a particular workflow for a contact or for a client. Could be a lead, could be, so I'm going to say contact, since it can be a lead or it can be an active client, could be whoever, right? And here is where I assign a workflow to contact workflow. And I'm going to explain that again in a second. But let's go back to the first part. By the way, from here, I can I can go directly to the workflow manager. But I want to go from the main part, or the main button, which is in the dashboard. Okay, so I'm going there, and from here I'm going to click Workflow Manager. So this is the main part. So here we have, in this case, this is just for example, right? That we have workflows, but you're going to have a meaningful name for the workflow, right? So actually here you can edit also, rename essentially, or edit a workflow. So you can put whatever you want, a meaningful name. Of course, this is only for training purposes that I have this list. The list, you can have potentially unlimited workflows, and you should have them again with a meaningful name each. And you create a new workflow by clicking here. And you create a new step in the workflow that potentially can be unlimited as well by clicking here. And while you have one workflow selected, and if you have filtered a step, like for example, if you omit one of the steps or something, whatever, and then you have less, you can select all the steps by clicking this button, all the steps for that particular workflow. Okay, it's important that you familiarize yourself with every button, of course, because this is not difficult to use, but at the same time, there has a lot of functionality as opposed to others. This one it's really powerful, and you should familiarize yourself with all the different steps. Okay, this area here to the right, so I'm going kind of easy on you, explaining the things that are easier first. This one, assign workflow if status is. So in other words, you won't be able, that the assignment, remember, can be done or will be done in the contact list. That's where you do your assignments, right? So in this area, what it let you do is that you won't be able, for example, let's say that you must have the status active client in order to assign this. That means that if the status one is not active client, then it cannot be assigned. All right. Same thing with the status two, and you mark the checkbox if both must be. So you can have one or two, but if it's both, then that means that is one and two. So, for example, active client and status two is came from Facebook, could be whatever it is, and then if you have both, then you cannot assign this workflow one. You cannot assign. So if we go briefly, I don't want to go in depth on this detail, but I want to show you that if we go to the action list and then click on, let's say here, we click in the workflow on this one, right? You see, we have this one actually is already assigned, and you can see that it says status one active client, but it was assigned before I change this. If I don't have it assigned, so I'm gonna uncheck it, so unassign it, right? If I want to assign it, is if Barry test is not an active client, you see, this workflow cannot be assigned because the status of the client does not match the requirements, which is a status one active client. Remember, when we entered, it was marked, yes, but it's because it was marked from before, right? Okay, so that was the reason. Also here we have, but I don't want to be dispersed to toggle only the assigned, the ones are assigned or all. So when I click this one, for example, workflow 3, you need to have status active, status 1 active client, status 2, and you need to have both. Well, this one, the status 2 is empty. So that is also an option to have it empty, but then you mark both. Again, it would be a little bit rare, but possible. Okay, so here we have the 21, and you could assign, etc. Okay, I hope that it makes sense. Also, we can, and I'm going to click again here in Barry. We can go to the action list from here, or go to this particular workflow from here. Okay, just by clicking. So that's another way to go to the workflow manager, in particular to that workflow, in this case number 1, from the action list. Okay, so now we are back here and we find additional conditions. What this means? This means that, as you can see, there are different conditions, like, for example, trigger on a specific day of the week. Like one is will be Sunday and etc. Right? So a trigger on I need to select before the step that I want to act upon. So this one, I didn't have anyone selected, so this one, and then I can, well, this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, being Sunday number 1, right? So so you need to select first the step, like I'm doing like this, and then this one will be a trigger on work day. And so pretty much they are self-explanatory. Like this one is a trigger 1, status 1 changes to something else, right? And then it can be expanded to trigger 1 status is. So, for example, you can put it when it changes and when it is a decline. So if it was a lead and then you change it to active client, this um, workflow will trigger. Okay, this way you can make different steps, right? You can make different steps. These are called steps, right? So you can make different steps to trigger or not, depending on things like uh, the day of the week, or if it is a weekend, or vice versa, a work day, or even a specific date. You need to be careful with that, obviously, because it can be never triggered or is etc. Or when a group contains, so we have stars one, stars two, and then we have the group. So etc. All right. So we're fine with this. Now, going to additional actions. These are the conditions. So it's kind of the condition can say when a step can trigger, when the step is allowed to trigger. And if you don't have anything specifically, well, then it's allowed to trigger anytime. So you think about it, when this is extremely powerful, but you need to use it carefully and intelligently. Additional actions. So, in other words, in addition to whatever the steps can do, you can see there are some steps that says the type is only action. So in other words, it's gonna do whatever is here, but also they can do an action and something else, which is also an action. But these actions are, instead of having a bunch of actions here, well, these actions are more easy to see in this type of format. Because, for example, an action could be, let's say that we are on this step, right? And then this step, as you can see, says that the change the status, one to lead and the second to affiliate. Okay, so this is what this. I mean, this doesn't make sense. I mean, in real life, well, it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it means that you could do it, right? So you could have in this step, the first step, you can have to change the status into lead and to change status to in affiliate, and at the same time send an email, and then you would select the email from here. And from here you have all the categories, and inside the categories you have the emails that you can select, and of course you can have your own emails, etc., right? So you can have any emails, and then will be the email that we have added, right? The email that we have added here, okay? And you can preview the template, etc. Okay, so these actions are additional to this action. So the action of sending an email, and also these actions, but also can be no action here at all. So this one also is sending or assigning a marketing campaign. So this first step is sending an email, changing the status one into lead, changing the status two into affiliate, and is assigning the test campaign, right, to the client, to whatever is the client that you assign this thing, right? Same thing could be clearing. So maybe while you're assigning this one, you want to clear um, a particular campaign, for example, test campaign number 2, and you want to put this one and clear this one, or vice versa. Kind of makes more sense visually. Okay, so in other words, I clear this one and assign this one, or you can clear all marketing campaigns, right? You cannot assign and clear everything. That would be contradiction, but you can clear everything in this step. And if you want to add another one, then you do another step. And that's it. It could be immediately, right? So it doesn't have to be, because you have an order here of steps that you can change, by the way. So if you think that the logic is not correct, as opposed to other systems where they look graphic and then they look very nice when you think about them, but when you are using them, it's extremely difficult to make a change and to even consider changing days, because first of all you don't see them, you don't see the things behind. You need to click on them to know what they do, and then that makes it extremely difficult to use. And this one you have everything in plain view, and like in other parts of the program we intend to have everything in plain view as possible. Here you have the description, so you know. So, for example, this description could be email to send to auto dealers. That could be the description, so you can see it at a glance. And also the status, this can be paused or active, right? So at any time you can have a workflow, but for whatever reason you don't want to do a particular step, you can, instead of delete it, you can put it in pause, right? Which again, those are things that are not easy to do in other systems. So here, for example, in this one second step, if you remember, we added only trigger if the status is at decline, etc. And this is only actions. In other words, that this one doesn't have a big action, but it has this action, and the action here is to set the group to a workflow test and to set the workflow number 2. In other words, you can concatenate workflows. I mean, the possibilities are endless. It's only limited by your imagination, but you need to, think about it carefully, and then it will be pretty easy. So now we're going to explore here the different actions. So if I add a step, right? I add a step and I have it here. It says originally, so by default, it says only action. But you can have task. What is task? Well, a task is that you're gonna assign a task not to a client. You assign a task to the task is for a client, but you assign a task to an agent, right? So you assign a task to an agent. And okay, let's try not to confuse you. Actually, it's both. So it's for the client, yes, for the client that we assign the workflow, and also it's going to be seen by the agent that you assign. So, for example, this is a task test, okay? And then let's say that I put it here, and I'm going to assign it to me, okay, for agent. By the way, we have a special, we'll talk about this in a second. So this task will be assigned to the client that I assign the workflow when it's time. That depends on how many days, etc. And then it's going to be seen by this agent, and etc. So you want to be seen by other agents. You need to add more steps, which can be done, and put it with 0 days, so it's going to be triggered almost simultaneously, and you're going to have that. But usually you want a task to be assigned to someone, and not to several people at the same time. That would be pretty much the norm. So okay, so I'm going to say it again. For the tasks, you type the task, whatever it is, you type the task, and then you assign it to an agent. Then we have emails. We just briefly covered that here. Then marketing campaign. So this is the your assign. This will be uh, similar, or you can even say identical to this one, right? To an action where you're gonna select a marketing campaign. Same thing that you would do here. So you would assign a particular marketing campaign, whatever. Let's say is this one, and this will be assigned to this client. In this case, the agent doesn't apply, so we can delete it. Then we have SMS, assuming that you have, we are integrated with Twilio. So if you have your API coordinates, you can send SMS messages and you can type the message here that you want. But also, you can select an SMS template from from the list of templates. You see, so we have SMS templates, and then, for example, send good morning. It will be one message, and you can send that one. Notice, and this is very important, that for SMS, you can send it to the agent instead. Okay, for SMS and emails. So potentially, the emails is kind of something that you want to say. Imagine that you have something that is triggered, a step that is triggered when the status changes to active client. So another person changes, right? Another agent changes to active client, and then you want to send an email to yourself, maybe on your mobile, right? Depending what is the agent email that you have set up in the system. And then, so you can mark this checkbox, right? If you want to, let's say that here I select this one, okay? And here I'm gonna put that is gonna send it to me. And this is assuming that I have my mobile phone in my um, agent database, right? Okay. In that case, I will receive this message as opposed to the client. So in this case, the client does not receive the message or email if I have checked this. All right. Again, extremely powerful. Then here is just to put a note. So you can put a note, whatever you type here will be added as a note for the client. This one doesn't apply here, so because there are no notes for agents, so doesn't apply. And so you will add a note automatically, which is good to explain maybe a step, something that you did here in the additional actions. You can explain in the note and add it. And that's why this note could be in combination with this, and you can explain that in the note. So that's, again, very, very powerful. And the last one is a webhook. A webhook is, well, a webhook. So in this case, if you go to the videos in the visual funnels, for example, it could be a webhook of anything that will trigger something. It could trigger a campaign in Facebook if you have the webhook to do that, or maybe you're using Zapier with a webhook, etc. So you can use, I mean, the possibilities are millions and millions of possibilities, but one of them is that you trigger something in the visual funnels and it's going to count as something that you want to count. For example, in the visual funnels, and it can be triggered with a webhook. But again, it could be anything. It could be any webhook that produces a certain action. And you can have merge fields here. Like for example, your an email, you can use the email merge field. So the same merge field that you use for templates, you can use here. Some of them obviously cannot use certain things on dispute or whatever, but the things that are generic, like the name of the client or email, things of that nature can be used here and used as variables for a particular webhook. So in other words, that you are sending, let's say that you have a webhook in active campaigns, and then you need to have the name of the campaign in the variable. Well, you type that, but then you need to have the email of the person and the name, maybe the first name, and so you can have those using a merge field. Of course, this is a very advanced option, and before using that or wanted to use that, you need to understand uh, even what I'm saying, but it's possible. It's possible if you use an external. I don't know why instead of using your own internal marketing campaign, but if you're using something like active campaigns or iContacts or something or Mailchimp or whatever, you used to use that, you could potentially trigger a webhook here automatically. And okay, so going here, well, you have the view when it's possible, meaning, for example, for an email, it's possible. And then here, well, here is to clear, right, the data. Okay, I clear this. And then here you put the number of days. So if I want this step to be triggered 3 days after the first one, well, I'm gonna do that, and this one will be 1 day after. If I want the same day, so for example, this one will be 0 days after this one that is 3 days, right? So obviously this will be triggered immediately or almost immediately, because the program triggers or consider triggering workflows when you go to the dashboard that you go frequently, right? And also when you go to the dispute center. So in order to, to not to take too many resources from you, and diminish the speed of the program. So when you do those actions, it's gonna consider the triggering. And then so you trigger this one immediately, 0 days, and then this one 3 days after, and then this one the same day. So if this is Monday, this will be Thursday, and then this one will be Thursday as well. So 3 days after today, if today is Monday. And this one, the minutes also, but the minutes are not too accurate, right? In the sense that, as I'm saying, it depends how many times you go to the dashboard, etc. So you can say that you're sending this one at 0, and then this one the same 0, but in 60 minutes. So not immediately, but with certain separation, which is fine. It's fine, certain separation, if you don't want to send too many emails at the same time, for example. And this is to do a specific time, which, again, you need to be on in the program with the program open. It's not going to do it if you don't have the program open, so etc. This is here, you see, do you want to set the date to today? So what it does here is that you're going to do an example. Essentially, this is an example of what will happen. So if today is August the 12th, this one will be triggered 3 days later, the 15th, and then this one will be the 15th as well. All right. This one, of course, is for the agent. That's when we have explored how it's used, and you can select here all the ones that go for a particular agent if you want to select. That's why, as I said at the beginning of this video, you have Maybe you have filtered this database for um, or whatever, that you have omitted something or you have selected, and so you can have, for example, these two, and then select these two, right? Because whatever you're examining, you are analyzing, you're doing something. So in this case, you can um, select here to select them all again. Also, here you can change the order, right? So let's say, I'm gonna put three again, but I'm gonna put here four. And if I put here four, you see now I change the order in a very, very easy way, very precise way. And if I want to, whatever, put this one in between, well, I can put this one as number five if I want, and then I can put this one number four, right? Then, of course, this thing has to make sense for your purpose because there's nothing predefined. This one changed that this one will be today, this one will be today, and this one will be in 3 more days, right? So this one, if you want, boom, will be changed 12, 12, 15. Okay, understood. So, well, I hope that you enjoy this new area of our program, and that is really, really powerful. My suggestion with that is that you start using it um, like doing baby steps, do it for very basic actions, like changing a status or maybe triggering an email automatically or even assigning a marketing campaign. And then once you get familiarized with the functionality and you are comfortable with it, then you're going to expand more and more and um, make it more complex, because it can be really, really complex and extremely useful. So by doing that, and if you need support, you know that you can send a support ticket or call us to our number 954-568-7153. Thank you.